The threshold breach. The stars shimmered against the void like distant beacons as the UESS Prometheus cut silently through space, its massive titanium alloy hull gleaming under the light of an unfamiliar sun. Captain Ilara Novak stood at the viewport, her weathered face illuminated by the glow of alien constellations. 23 years of military service had hardened her resolve, but even she felt the weight of history pressing down upon her shoulders. "Approaching the threshold in 3 minutes, Captain," announced Lieutenant Wei Chen, his voice steady despite the gravity of their mission. "Acknowledged," Ilara replied, her gray eyes never leaving the stars. "All hands to battle stations. This isn't a drill." The Prometheus wasn't just any warship, it represented the pinnacle of human achievement. At 1.8 kilometers long, it bristled with railguns that could accelerate projectiles to near light speed, antimatter torpedoes capable of cracking small moons, and energy shields reverse-engineered from technology that had nearly destroyed Earth 15 years ago. As warning klaxons sounded throughout the vessel, Ilara allowed herself a moment of reflection. Humanity had discovered they weren't alone in the universe when the first alien probe entered the solar system in 2147. Initial excitement quickly turned to dread as Earth scientists deciphered its message. A simple directive to cease all interstellar development, signed by something called the Collective. Further probes arrived bearing the same message, each more threatening than the last. When humanity launched its first faster-than-light vessel 8 years later, the response was swift and devastating. The collective battlecruiser appeared at the edge of the solar system and obliterated the ship, along with the Mars colony, killing 12,000 people. The message was clear: stay in your corner of the galaxy or face extinction. 1 minute to threshold, Chen reported, interrupting Ilara's thoughts. All defensive systems active, confirmed Commander Amara Santos, the ship's tactical officer. Her dark fingers danced across the control panel with practiced precision. Stealth systems engage. Weapons hot but safetied. Very good, Ilara nodded. Let's make history. The great secret of the Prometheus, known only to Earth's highest military echelons, was that it wasn't humanity's first attempt to breach the threshold. The invisible boundary the collective had established around human space. It was the 12th. 11 unmanned probes had been dispatched over the past decade. None had returned. But the Prometheus was different. It carried 2,000 of Earth's finest soldiers, scientists, and engineers, all volunteers who understood this mission might be one way. And it carried something else. Project AEGIS, humanity's desperate gamble for survival. Threshold breached, Chen announced, his voice dropping to a near whisper. The bridge fell silent. They had just violated the most sacred law imposed by the collective, a coalition of species they had never even seen face to face. "Now we wait," murmured Dr. Isaiah Reynolds, the civilian-led scientist for Project AEGIS. Unlike the military personnel surrounding him, Reynolds wore no uniform, only a rumpled lab coat with the United Earth Space Agency patch on the shoulder. "Not for long," Ilara replied, her eyes fixed on the sensor display. "They know we're here." As if summoned by her words, space before them distorted. Reality itself seemed to fold, and through that distortion emerged 3 vessels of alien design, angular constructs of black metal, and pulsing energy fields that defied human engineering principles. 3 collective vessels, Santos reported, her voice tense. Destroyer class, energy signatures beyond our classification system. They're scanning us. And they've locked weapons. Ilara remained impassive. Hold position. Open communications on all frequencies. After 30 agonizing seconds of silence, the main view screen flickered to life. The alien that appeared was vaguely insectoid, with compound eyes that reflected the light unnaturally and mandibles that clicked as it spoke. Its words were translated by the ship's AI into flat, emotionless English. "Human vessel, you have violated sovereign collective space. You have disregarded explicit warnings. Identify yourself and power down all systems immediately." Resistance will result in your destruction. Dr. Reynolds stepped forward to stand beside Ilara. This was the moment they had trained for, the first direct communication between humanity and the collective. This is Dr. Isaiah Reynolds of the United Earth Alliance. We represent humanity, a sovereign species from the Sol system. We acknowledge your communication, but reject any claim of authority over our technological development or exploration rights. The alien's mandibles clicked rapidly. Your protest is irrelevant. The collective has observed your species since your first radio transmissions. The determination was made generations ago. You are classified as Category 7, too aggressive and unpredictable to join galactic society. Your containment is non-negotiable. Ilara felt anger rise in her chest, but kept her expression neutral. With respect, Reynolds continued, we were never given the opportunity to represent ourselves. We cannot accept limits imposed without dialogue or consent. Ignorance of collective law does not constitute exemption. The alien responded. Your vessel will power down all systems immediately. Your crew will be processed. Your homeworld will be placed under permanent quarantine. This is the final warning. Ilara and Reynolds exchanged glances. Processed had ominous implications that neither wished to contemplate. I'm afraid we cannot comply with that directive, Reynolds said firmly. We came prepared to establish peaceful relations, but we will not surrender our right to exist as a spacefaring species. Then you leave us no alternative, the alien replied. The communication terminated abruptly. They're charging weapons, Santos reported, her fingers flying across her console. Targeting our engine systems. Ilara took a deep breath. This was the moment Earth had feared and prepared for. The reason the Prometheus carried not just diplomats, but world-ending firepower. Initiate Project AEGIS, she ordered quietly. Chen looked up, his eyes wide. Captain, once we deploy. I'm aware of the implications, Lieutenant, Ilara interrupted. This was no time for doubts. From the underside of the Prometheus, a small, unassuming probe detached itself, drifting lazily toward the lead alien vessel. It appeared harmless, little more than a communications buoy. The aliens paid it no attention, their focus fixed on the human warship as they moved into firing position. They wouldn't realize their mistake until it was too late. Humanity hadn't come to this meeting unprepared or relying solely on diplomacy. While the 11 ships before the Prometheus had never returned, they had completed their missions, gathering intelligence and technology that Earth scientists had spent years analyzing. The probe activated, and for a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then a wave of iridescent energy pulsed outward in all directions, a ripple in the fabric of space-time itself. The effect on the alien vessels was immediate and dramatic. Their angular forms shuddered violently, energy fields collapsing as system after system failed. The patterns of light running along their hulls flickered chaotically before dying altogether. It worked, breathed Chen, disbelief evident in his voice. AEGIS actually worked. The wave continued outward, dissipating as it expanded but leaving the 3 alien ships drifting powerlessly in its wake. Tactical assessment, Ilara ordered, refusing to celebrate prematurely. Santos studied her displays. All 3 vessels show complete power failure. Weapons, shields, and propulsion are offline. She frowned. But I'm detecting emergency systems activating. Estimate 3 minutes before they restore partial functionality. Long enough, Ilara said. Reopen the channel. The view screen flickered back to life, but instead of the composed alien commander, they were greeted with chaos. Emergency lighting bathed the alien bridge in pulsing red. Multiple aliens of different species moved frantically in the background, some so strange in appearance that the human mind struggled to categorize them. What have you done? Demanded the insectoid commander, its mandibles clicking furiously. Dr. Reynolds stepped forward again. We've demonstrated that we are not defenseless despite your assumptions. The effect is temporary and non-lethal. Consider it a gesture of restraint on our part. Restraint. The translator couldn't quite capture the emotion, but the intent was clear. You have deployed forbidden technology against collective vessels. This is an act of war. No, Reynolds countered. This is an act of self-preservation. You declared your intent to process our crew and quarantine our species. You left us no choice. The alien commander's compound eyes glittered. Your species was evaluated and found wanting. You are violent, unpredictable, fractious. Your history is written in the blood of your own kind. Yes, Reynolds acknowledged, surprising the alien with his candor. Humanity has a troubled past. We have fought wars, committed atrocities, damaged our own world. But we have also created art that can inspire the soul, music that can move the heart, and science that explores the very nature of existence. We have looked into the abyss of our nature and chosen to rise above it. He took a step closer to the screen. And we have done all this alone, without guidance, without the benefit of your collective's wisdom. Imagine what we might accomplish together. The alien was silent for a long moment. Then, your device. It bears the signature of precursor technology. Ilara tensed. This was unexpected. Earth scientists had never identified the origin of the technology they had reverse-engineered. We adapted what we found, she said carefully. Impossible, the alien insisted. Precursor technology is beyond your comprehension. It predates the collective itself. Commander Santos looked up from her station, unable to contain herself. We didn't need to understand it completely. We only needed to understand enough. That was the truth. Humanity hadn't matched the collective's technological sophistication. They had simply found its weakness and exploited it. 1 minute until their systems recover, Santos murmured. Ilara nodded. Dr. Reynolds, make your proposal. Reynolds stepped forward once more. We propose a ceasefire and formal recognition of humanity's right to explore beyond our solar system. In exchange, we will share our understanding of the technology we just demonstrated. The alien commander's mandibles clicked rapidly. You would trade your only advantage. It's not our only advantage, Reynolds said with a slight smile. Just the only one we've shown you so far. It was a bluff, of course. The AEGIS device had been humanity's best shot, but the collective didn't know that, and sometimes perception mattered more than reality. Before the alien could respond, an alert sounded from Chin's station. Captain, I'm detecting massive energy signatures. Multiple vessels emerging from FTL. The tactical display updated, and Ilara felt her blood run cold. Surrounding them now were not 3 alien vessels, but 15, each larger and more imposing than the last. The collective called for reinforcements, Santos said grimly. But as Ilara prepared to order battle stations, something strange happened. The newly arrived vessels ignored the Prometheus entirely, focusing instead on the disabled collective ships. And their design was different. Organic curves instead of harsh angles, with hulls that seemed to shimmer with their own inner light. The communication system chimed with an incoming transmission, but not from any of the alien vessels. Instead, it seemed to emanate from the AEGIS probe itself, which now pulsed with energy far greater than anything it should have been capable of generating. A new voice filled the bridge, neither human nor like the collective aliens. It resonated with a harmonic quality that seemed to bypass the ears and speak directly to the mind. Reclamation protocol activated. Human vessel identified as catalyst. Ancient compact remembered. On the view screen, the collective commander's compound eyes widened with what could only be described as terror. It cannot be. The precursors were destroyed millennia ago. What's happening? Ilara demanded, addressing both the mysterious voice and the alien commander. What's happening to our probe? The voice continued, ignoring her questions. Collective violation detected. Suppression of Category 7 developing species. Precursor directive override engage. The AEGIS probe began to transform, its simple metallic shell unfolding like a mechanical flower to reveal a core of swirling light that grew brighter with each passing second. The energy it emitted changed frequency, bathing the Prometheus in a golden glow that seemed to strengthen rather than harm the human vessel. "Captain," Santos reported, her voice filled with wonder, "something is downloading into our database. Massive amounts of data. Star charts, technical schematics, historical records. My God, it's the entire history of the galaxy." As the Prometheus's systems struggled to process this unexpected gift, the mysterious voice spoke one final time, addressing not just the bridge crew, but seemingly all of humanity. "The test is complete. The seed has found worthy soil. Humanity stands at the threshold of a greater journey. Choose your path wisely." With those enigmatic words, the AEGIS probe collapsed in on itself, vanishing in a flash of light that momentarily outshone the nearest star. In its place remained a small crystalline object that pulsed with its own inner radiance, a key to secrets beyond human understanding. And around them, the new alien vessels moved into protective formation, shielding the Prometheus from the now recovering collective ships. "Captain," Chen whispered, "I think we just made some new friends." Hilara stared at the tactical display, her mind racing to process the implications. What had begun as a desperate mission to assert humanity's right to exist had somehow awakened forces that had lain dormant for millennia. Forces that would forever change the balance of power in the galaxy. "Send word to Earth," she ordered quietly. Tell them everything has changed. The ancient alliance." The crystalline object hovered in the secure laboratory of the UESS Prometheus, bathing the room in a soft azure light that seemed to pulse with its own heartbeat. Captain Ilara Novak watched through the observation window as Dr. Reynolds and his team worked tirelessly to understand what they had inadvertently awakened. 12 hours had passed since the encounter that should have ended in humanity's defeat, but had instead reshaped the galactic landscape entirely. Outside the Prometheus, 17 alien vessels maintained a protective perimeter, 15 belonging to the mysterious newcomers, and 2 collective ships that had switched allegiance in the aftermath of the event. "Any progress?" Ilara asked as Commander Santos joined her at the window. "The data transfer completed an hour ago," Santos replied, her eyes reflecting the blue glow. 6 exabytes of information. Our systems are barely keeping up with the translation algorithms." Ilara nodded. "And our guests?" "The emissary is waiting in the diplomatic suite. Said they would speak only with you and Dr. Reynolds." Santos hesitated. "Captain, I've reviewed the preliminary security scans. Whatever these beings are, they're not like the collective. Their technology is. It's beyond anything in our threat assessment protocols. Friend or foe?" "That's the strange part," Santos admitted. "They seem genuinely protective. The collective reinforcements that arrived after the incident attempted to open fire on us, but our new allies intercepted every shot. They haven't made any aggressive moves toward us." Ilara's communicator chimed. "Captain," came Dr. Reynolds' excited voice, "we've got something. You need to see this immediately." Inside the laboratory, Reynolds barely looked up as Ilara entered. The normally composed scientist vibrated with barely contained excitement, his hands moving rapidly across interfaces projected in the air around him. "We've been thinking about this all wrong," he said without preamble. "The probe, the energy field, the data transfer, none of it was planned by these precursors. It was an automated response system." "Explain," Ilara commanded, studying the holographic displays surrounding the crystal. Ancient symbols and equations flowed across them, constantly shifting and reforming. The precursors, or whatever they called themselves, vanished from the galaxy approximately 50,000 years ago. But before they left, they seeded technology throughout the cosmos. Reynolds gestured to the crystal. "Sleeping sentinels, waiting to be activated by specific conditions." "What conditions?" "Us," Reynolds said simply. "Or more specifically, any developing species that displayed certain characteristics while under threat of extinction from established powers." "You're saying this was some kind of test?" Reynolds nodded eagerly. The technology we salvaged from those reconnaissance probes years ago. The technology we incorporated into the AEGIS device. It contained dormant precursor components. Components designed to recognize and respond to a very specific scenario. A technologically developing species using precursor-derived technology to defend itself against unjust aggression. So when we activated AEGIS, Ilara began. We unintentionally completed a circuit that had been waiting thousands of years to be closed. Reynolds finished. We rang a bell that hasn't sounded in 50 millennia. And someone, or something, answered. Before Ilara could respond, the crystal pulsed more intensely, and a holographic figure materialized beside it. A being of indeterminate gender, tall and slender with six-fingered hands, and features that seemed to blend aspects of dozens of different species into something both alien and strangely familiar. "Greetings, Captain Novak," Dr. Reynolds. The figure said, its voice melodic and clear. "I am Archivox, custodian interface of the precursor legacy." Ilara's hand instinctively moved toward her sidearm before she caught herself. "You know who we are." The hologram nodded. "Your neural patterns were scanned during the activation sequence, a necessary security protocol. I apologize for the intrusion. What do you want from us?" Ilara asked. "Want?" Archivox tilted its head. "The precursors want nothing. They departed physical existence 49,783 of your years ago, ascending to a higher plane of consciousness. What remains is their legacy, a gift to worthy successor species. And humanity is worthy?" Reynolds asked, his scientific curiosity overcoming his caution. "Humanity is interesting," Archivox replied. "You have advanced differently than most spacefaring civilizations. Your technological development has been uneven, your social structures constantly in flux. You wage war against yourselves yet unite against external threats. You create beauty alongside destruction. The precursors found such paradoxical species rare and valuable." "Is that why the collective feared us?" Ilara asked. "Because we're unpredictable." "The collective," Archivox said, the hologram's expression hardening, "was never meant to exist as it does now. It began as a collaborative council among the elder races, established to guide younger species. Over millennia, it devolved into a stagnant, controlling entity that preserves stability at all costs, even at the expense of growth and innovation." The hologram gestured, and a three-dimensional map of the galaxy appeared beside it, with thousands of points of light marking inhabited systems. The precursors understood that diversity, biological, technological, philosophical, was essential for the advancement of all life. The collective has systematically eliminated that diversity for 15,000 years, classifying and constraining countless species. "Like humanity," Reynolds observed. "Precisely. Species like yours, adaptable, resilient, creative, were particularly targeted because you represent change. The unknown. The collective fears what it cannot predict." A new alert sounded throughout the ship, cutting through their conversation. "Captain to the bridge." Lieutenant Chen's voice came through the comm system. "Collective battle group approaching. 12 dreadnought-class vessels." "So much for diplomacy," Ilara muttered. "Archivox, we need to continue this discussion later." But the hologram raised a six-fingered hand. "There is no need for concern, Captain. Events are proceeding as anticipated." On the bridge, the tactical display showed the approaching collective armada. Massive warships arrayed in attack formation, their weapons primed and targeting systems locked on both the Prometheus and its new allies. "They're hailing us," Chen reported as Ilara took her command chair. On screen, the view screen flickered to life, revealing not the insectoid commander from before, but a new figure, a being that seemed composed of living mercury, its silvery form constantly shifting and flowing. "Human vessel," the liquid being said, its voice like metal scraping against glass. "You have violated collective space, deployed forbidden technology, and interfered with collective representatives. Your actions constitute an act of war against all civilized species. Ilara started to respond, but a new figure stepped into view beside the collective commander, one of the newcomers who had arrived to protect the Prometheus. This being appeared almost crystalline, its body composed of interlocking translucent plates that shimmered with inner light. High Admiral Zix, the crystalline being addressed the collective commander. The reclamation protocol has been activated. The human vessel stands under the protection of the Sentinel Accord. The Mercury-like being seemed to ripple with emotion. The Accord is a myth, Sentinel Kevora, a children's tale. And yet here we stand. Kevora replied calmly. 50,000 years of waiting, as the precursors instructed. The conditions have been met. A worthy species has awakened the legacy. These humans, Admiral Zix's form rippled with what might have been disdain. They are barbarians, barely out of their gravity well. They destroy their own world, wage war on their own kind. They passed the test, Kevora countered. When faced with extinction, they chose innovation over surrender, ingenuity over despair. And most importantly, when they gained power over their oppressors, they chose restraint over vengeance. Ilara exchanged glances with Dr. Reynolds, who had followed her to the bridge. The test had been a near thing. Earth's military leadership had pushed hard for the AEGIS device to be weaponized, to strike back at the collective with devastating force. Only the scientists' insistence that non-lethal application would yield better results had prevented a bloodbath. The Collective Council will never accept this, Admiral Zix declared. One primitive species cannot overturn 15,000 years of galactic order. They already have, Kevora replied. Look to your own vessels, Admiral. As if on cue, the crystal that had emerged from the AEGIS probe, now secured in the Prometheus's laboratory, pulsed with blinding intensity. A wave of energy, similar to what had disabled the collective ships earlier, but vastly more powerful, emanated outward at impossible speed. When it reached the collective battle group, their vessels shuddered as if struck. But instead of disabling them, the energy seemed to transform them. Patterns of light raced across their hulls, rearranging the very structure of their ships. What's happening? Ilara demanded. The legacy is being unlocked, Archivox's voice answered as the hologram reappeared on the bridge. For millennia, the precursor's technology has been scattered throughout the galaxy, much of it incorporated into the collective's vessels without their knowledge. Now it awakens. On the view screen, Admiral Zix's Mercury-like form convulsed as the wave passed through his ship. This is impossible. What have you done? We have done nothing, Kevora replied. The precursors left safeguards against exactly the kind of tyranny the collective has become. You built your empire on their forgotten technology, never understanding that it contained the seeds of your reformation. The energy wave continued outward, beyond the range of the Prometheus's sensors, but its effects were immediately apparent as communication channels throughout the ship lit up with thousands of incoming transmissions from collective worlds, outposts, and vessels across the sector, all reporting the same phenomenon. The changes are occurring everywhere, Santos reported, her voice filled with awe. The wave is propagating through subspace, affecting every piece of collective technology that contains precursor elements. Which is nearly all of it, Archivox added. The collective's technological evolution has been guided, subtly, over thousands of years, to incorporate specific precursor components that would respond to this precise activation sequence. Admiral Zix seemed to collapse in on himself, his liquid form trembling. The Council, they knew. They always knew this day might come. The precursor contingency. Yes, Kevora confirmed. For 50,000 years, we Sentinels have waited, watching for a species that could trigger the reclamation. We protected your people when you were young, Admiral, just as we now protect humanity. The cycle continues. As the shock of the revelation rippled through both the collective forces and the Prometheus crew, Archivox turned to Ilara. Captain Novak, the precursors left more than just technology. They left knowledge, the accumulated wisdom of 1,000,000 years of cosmic civilization. This knowledge is now yours to access. Why? Ilara asked, the simple question containing volumes. Why us? Why now? Because the galaxy stands at a crossroads, Archivox replied. The collective stagnation has prevented the emergence of new ideas, new perspectives. Species like humanity, adaptable, questioning, innovative, are necessary for what comes next. Which is? Reynolds prompted. Evolution, Archivox said simply. The precursors believed that consciousness itself must constantly evolve or face extinction. The collective has prevented that evolution for too long. Humanity, and others like you, will be the catalyst for the next great leap forward. On the view screen, Admiral Zix had regained some composure. What happens now? Will you dismantle the collective entirely? No, Kavora answered. The collective will be transformed, not destroyed. The knowledge that was hidden will be revealed. The technology that was restricted will be shared. The species that were suppressed will be liberated, including humanity, Ilara stated rather than asked. Especially humanity, Kavora confirmed. As the catalyst species, you now hold a unique position in the new order that emerges. The Sentinel Accord will ensure your protection as you develop, but your destiny remains your own to determine. Admiral Zix's form rippled one final time before stabilizing. Then, as the ranking collective representative present, I formally acknowledge the activation of the precursor contingency and the elevation of humanity to protected catalyst status. The Mercury-like being seemed to straighten. Captain Novak, it appears we have much to discuss. Indeed we do, Admiral, Ilara replied, her mind racing with the implications. In the span of a single day, humanity had gone from an imprisoned species facing extinction to a linchpin in the reformation of galactic society. As the communication ended and plans were made for formal diplomatic exchanges, Ilara turned to Dr. Reynolds. You realize what this means for Earth? Reynolds nodded, his expression a mixture of excitement and concern. Everything changes. Our technology, our society, our understanding of our place in the universe. Nothing will be the same. Was it worth it? Ilara asked quietly. The risk we took. Reynolds smiled faintly. Ask me again in 100 years. Over the next several days, as the Prometheus prepared to return to Earth with its revolutionary news, the full scope of the transformation became clear. The wave of awakening precursor technology had spread throughout the galaxy, affecting not just the collective, but thousands of other civilizations. Ancient barriers fell. Restricted knowledge flowed freely once more. Species that had been classified as too dangerous and confined to their homeworlds found themselves suddenly free to join the greater galactic community. And at the heart of this transformation stood humanity, not because they were stronger or wiser than other species, but because they had demonstrated the precise combination of qualities the precursors had valued: innovation under pressure, determination in the face of overwhelming odds, and mercy when holding power over others. As Captain Ilara Novak stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, watching Earth grow larger in the view screen, she reflected on the journey that had brought them here. They had launched into space as desperate defenders of a cornered species. They would return as harbingers of a new galactic order. Captain, Lieutenant Chen called from his station. We're receiving a transmission from Earth. They're asking for confirmation of our preliminary report. They say it's too extraordinary to believe. Ilara smiled. Tell them they haven't seen anything yet. Behind her, the crystalline object that had changed everything continued to pulse with inner light, a beacon guiding humanity toward a future limited only by their imagination. A future where they would stand among the stars not as conquerors or conquered, but as catalysts for the next great leap in cosmic evolution. The galaxy would indeed never forget the day humanity's warship entered alien space, not because of the weapons it carried or the lives it threatened, but because of what it awakened, both in the universe and in humanity itself. As the Prometheus prepared to dock at Earth's orbital station, Archivox's final words echoed in Ilara's mind. The test is complete. The seed has found worthy soil. Humanity stands at the threshold of a greater journey. Choose your path wisely. And for the first time in decades, that path led not toward conflict and survival, but toward discovery and transformation. A journey without end into the infinite possibilities that awaited among the stars.